let's go ahead and discuss maybe something that is a little bit more behind the scenes, just some of the timer jobs here. So there are multiple jobs associated with each profile, and some are just one-time only jobs, and others should be regularly scheduled. So let's go back here to our profile and click on the jobs link next to the profile. And you're going to see the unused blob cleanup job. I referred to this earlier as the orphan blob cleanup job. Same thing, I think we used to call it the orphan blob cleanup job. It's the job that as you delete SharePoint content, we need to remove the associated blob. Again, keep in mind we remove it once that retention period has been met. And another piece that it actually removes, because we went over this in class 1, it removes all those blank files, those BLNK files that have been left as breadcrumbs in the system cache. Remember, when we push something from in an asynchronous endpoint from the system cache to a particular endpoint, we then leave a small little pointer file telling us where it went. Those will be removed by this job as well once the retention period has been met. If you have set this particular endpoint that you've got to be a worm device, which we went over last time as well, the write once, read many device that you might own, and you switched that setting to yes, StoragePoint will completely ignore any file that you deleted from SharePoint and will not remove the deletion. We actually write to the log that StoragePoint had checked this blob for deletion, and it was not removed from the device. Now, one of the things you should realize, too, if a site has been deleted recently, an entire site or site collection, you will see errors in the log for this job. Not necessarily errors, I should say. They're more informational errors. So this is typical. And if need be, what you can actually do is go to Central Admin. I think the job that you need to run is what's called the Gradual site deletion job. Because basically after a site is deleted, this job is needed to actually fully remove it from SharePoint. I believe it runs at least daily by default, but I'd have to check. Don't necessarily need to go to the job section here, the job monitoring section, but it's an important note. If you do delete a whole site collection for that one day, you might just see some errors popping up in your log, and those are completely normal because SharePoint cannot find that site collection that you had just removed until you do that gradual deletion. The Health Analyzer job. This is the cure-all job that we need to make sure is run quite often. It looks for blob files that are missing. It looks for any kind of size discrepancies that SQL and the blob have. It looks for those BLNK files to be updated. Think of it as sort of the SOMA, the cure-all for everything StoragePoint. It will even kick off the orphan blob cleanup job if it needs to here. You can see the Restore Missing Blobs checkbox. That's there because if there are missing blobs, it will actually go and check the backup endpoint to restore the blob to the primary endpoint. So it's a really cool way to make sure if somebody did something or if something happened, well, we've got a backup, of course, anyway, of those blobs that never get removed. And let's just go ahead and automatically restore any of those blobs that are missing from the primary endpoint and exist in the backup endpoint. All right. Now, some of the key, more one-time only jobs. Blob externalization is basically there to externalize existing blobs that are in the content database. Pretty straightforward, right? It's more of a one-time only job because you don't need to keep running these. Externalization automatically happens as you upload content based on your filtering rules and as you archive content based on your archiving rules. Blob recall job, a very much so one-time only job. It moves blobs back into the content database. Now, there's really no need for you to do this in bulk ever, unless you are getting rid of StoragePoint altogether, which I would hope you never do. So there's really nothing that you would need this for, except maybe for some kind of requirement that makes you push maybe an entire site collection back into a database for whatever reason. And you can see there are some filtering options here as well. You can do it endpoint by endpoint to bring content back into the database, even filter based on size. All right. Underneath the recall is kind of an important one if you are restructuring where things are, and it's going to be required again for actually those who might be switching from EBS to RBS, is the blob migrate. job, it moves blobs from one endpoint to another endpoint. The only key here is that the destination endpoint, if you can see, must be part of the profile that you are in. It cannot be part of another profile. And as a side note, actually, I don't think it can be part of a librarian. It cannot be part of a librarian endpoint, actually, as well. So the librarian endpoint, although showing up there, is not able, it will not move your blobs to that endpoint. Okay. So I think, again, the externalization job, that recall job, the migrate job, they do not need to be run frequently. Ideally, you maybe, if you have to run these, even schedule them during a maintenance window. And I think for those one-time jobs, if you have a lot of content you're going to externalize or recall or migrate, make sure that your SQL and your web front ends are adequately provisioned because you might see, again, memory spikes or CPU spiking. And that might slow down your environment. So either you should lower the thread count on these jobs because they all have the ability to run on multi-threads, or you will just run them during the maintenance window when no one is using SharePoint. And first of all, actually going back to that, because I see some private questions there being asked, the unused blob cleanup job and the blob reference scan, at least run these and schedule these once a day. They will be by default daily. I just switched mine to weekly, so I don't have jobs running on my very inadequately provisioned farm. So make sure these are run at least daily here.